When you think of evil, what image, what vile, demented, monstrous image awakens in your mind palace? Locked away in the deepest and darkest catacombs of your mind, just waiting to torment you. Many have their own depictions of evil throughout the millennium, but select few need only hear the wicked wails of one being to have their hearts palpitate in fear and despair. Just one utterance of the word sends those who hear the wicked war cry screaming into the abyss. What sound? What terrible, terrible wail could bring someone into such a traumatic state? Only one comes to mind for me.
I'm Yvonne, and I'm so afraid of balloons. I can't see them. I can't get close to them. I can't even think about being in a room filled with balloons. I need to be cured because I can't do anything with my grandchildren. I can't. I'm so afraid of the balloons.
This battle is about to explode.
Oh man, I almost had a heart attack there. You got that killer instinct. The battle for survival begins.
Are still trying to win.
Triumph or die!
Entrust your noble soul in your sword.
A new opponent is ready to face your destiny.
Can I get a round of applause for our contestants?
Don't give up. Welcome to the new stage of destiny.
Karnov.
Yes, the man, too round to be square. The fire-breathing juggernaut from the land of the iron sickle. The helium-ridden deathbringer from above. Karnov. This shirtless, blubbery Cadillac of men has a rich history that has left many a lasting impression on many of the fighting game community. And ironically enough, his legend began way before many would even do combat with him in the genre of fighters. So today, on Fighter's Destiny, we look into the rich tapestry of lore, the catalog of cameos, and the gut-churning sensation that swept 1/4 of the nation, I'm sure. We take flight into the destiny of one Jimbarov Karnovinsky. Before we inflate ourselves, you get it? You go balloon. Sorry. In all seriousness, before we get into the hype that is Karnov, we must first take a trip back to the humble time period of the year 1983. Hot off the infamous video game crash caused by the wicked greed and unpolished crafts being produced ad nauseum by the corporate stooges down at Atari, the very future of video games seemed bleak. The humble Japanese video game company Data East was releasing many promising games, such as Jack Lot, game that's kind of like blackjack or Super Break. Didn't think that I could find footage. Maybe I did. Does it look fun? But then, they hit the streets of the good old USA, and in 1980 they released their first classic, Astro Fighter, their first big break into the video game market. And with the help of their old friend, good old Uncle Sega, they released their gem onto arcades all across the USA, and this promising fixed space shooter, I'm sure, got many of those yoga pants top mamas all hot and bothered in their loins seeing this badass cabinet around their local arcades.
Hashtag rest in pizza fun zone, Route 110 in Farmingdale, Long Island's greatest indoor amusement park.
Now, with their hot ticket to fame and fortune, as well as the rise of the revolutionary cassette gaming market, they expanded their foothold in the American gaming market into the 1980s and established itself as a big money player in the games industry. While the game crash may have had other developers soiling their undies, Data East tore through arcades with memorable classics like Burger Time, Heavy Barrel, RoboCop, Sly Spy, Bump and Jump, and even one of the very first fighting games, Karate Champ. While many of these pure classics in the eyes of many oldie video gamers, backwards capped bad boys, they pale in comparison to the power of Karnov, which released upon arcades across the world in 1987. And so, there he is, the depiction of glory and greatness. The 1987 arcade gem Karnov gave us our first glimpse, our first interaction with our protagonist hero? We play as fuck this fucking name, Jimbarov Karnovinsky, who we would all know as the much easier to say Karnov, who may or may not be actually based on an unnamed manager who worked for Data East at the time, but it was an interview with a Data East staff member that has never been confirmed. The official lore from our boys down at Data East flesh out his motives and desires as him being, and I shit you not, this is real, a resurrected criminal.
From your grave.
That's right, Karnov, wised from his grave after probably feasting off various babies after his strongman performances in Russian circuses,
When's it gonna stop?
Karnov.
giving him the power to live again? I don't fucking know, but that sounds metal as fuck enough to me.
It just makes sense.
So, when Karnov died, God was like, nah man, you ain't done fucking around in the realm of mortals, bro, and ordered him to go back to Earth to atone for his various sins. So, how can someone atone for various evil deeds committed to appease the big G? You probably are asking yourself? Well, I mean, that's easy. I mean, all you gotta do is just slay some giant-ass dragon with your bare hands. I mean, it's easy enough, right? So, the man from unspecified part of Central Asia Republic. Okay, whatever, PR team guys. He's a fucking Soviet strongman. You could take your cultural sensitivity in 1987 and fuck right off. We all know that the dude's a big baddie from the Iron Curtain. Look at him. Shut up. So, The quest delivered from the big G-Whiz has Karnov quest throughout 9 levels of what I can only describe as some whacked out future past post-apocalyptic wasteland filled with all sorts of fucking demons, dinos, magikers, and buff Heraclesian.
Bless my soul, Kirk was on a roll.
In search of some ultimate treasure. The lost treasure of Babylon. As he collects pieces of the treasure map to find the evil wizard Arachdakai, who guards the sacred treasure. So, while the game is incredibly frustrating and really difficult, like, this is a quarter muncher. This game is fucking difficult. Look at this! This is like a walking shmup! It's like a fat Toho man! But it's actually a really fun side-scrolling kind of shmup where you basically throw around fireballs at various enemies, picking up power-ups to aid you and boost stats like super speed, 3-directional fireballs, ladders, and of course, the power of flight.
Believe it or not, I'm walking on air. I never thought I could feel so free.
Great game, but wow, are you not meant to ever complete this game by any normal means necessary. At least from what I've seen, unless there's some godly being that could do it. So in 1986, Data East would enter into the video game console market, which had just been saved by Nintendo and their robot buddy Rob, thanks to the popularity of the NES toy. So basically everyone had this phobia of video games in quotation marks, so Nintendo decided, you know what, we're gonna swoop in and save video games. But it's not a video game, guys, it's a toy. Do you see this robot? That's a toy. So, with some programming help by Cicada Sass, Karnov would be released into the homes of many parents and children on the NES, Famicom, Amstrad, DOS, PC, Commodore 64, Macintosh, and ZX Spectrum, and have sales surpassing 250,000 copies by November of 1989, and was very highly rated by many reviewers at the time. A few things change when porting the round, flaming Russian to home consoles. The ZX Spectrum, serving as the foundation for all the other ports that would surpass it, would boast having the sharpest and most colorful port of the bunch. Following it up was the Commodore 64 port, which, well, let's just say that was a mistake. Amstrad added an ending credits song and had the least slowdown in comparison to the Spectrum and Commodore's ports. The DOS version, developed by Quicksilver Software, would be the next challenger, and proved to be extremely faithful to the version of the original arcade game. Maybe perhaps a little too faithful, as wonky collision, frustrating and aggressive enemy AI, and super dumb hitboxes would make the difficulty of the original seem like a stroll through Kirby's Dreamland. Macintosh version, made by Technology Works, would smooth out some things, and even add a practice mode which allowed players to tackle every level with whatever power-up their heart desired. However, it would still be plagued with a lack of game's charm, stripping it of sound effects and music, and jumping seeming like Karnov was battling demons on the fucking moon, while having them spawn directly in front of him, and his hitbox being the equivalent of if another Karnov was straddled onto your back. So, yeah, a little wonky there. But never fear, as SAS would crush their counterparts with their Famicom version releasing in 1987 and the following year in 1988 on the NES. The game's port adjusted many things, like adding an extra hit of damage to lessen a bit of the difficulty in comparison to the arcade game, being able to pause at any time, more manageable level arrangements, introductions to new power-ups like Shield that could block 5 enemy attacks, and the Clapper, which was an instant screen killer. It's really no surprise why this version is the most remembered by the fans.
There once was a small town in the region of Cryamina. One day, in this peaceful town, a wizard named Arachtakai appeared and took all of the treasure from the townspeople. The people worked together to defeat Arachtakai. But alas, Arachtakai happened to be doing horrible things on the other side of the Cryamina region and began cursing the people. Seeing the events going on below, God decided to have a man on the ground and called for a man named Karnov. Karnov only did bad things when he was a human being, and now was a servant of God. Understood, Karnov. To prove your innocence, you must save the innocent people Arachtakai has cursed. You will defeat Arachtakai with this magic I've given you. Let me release you from your servitude once your deeds are performed. Well, let's go, Karnov!
The story went through some minor alterations, as well as both differing in the NES and Famicom version. The Kingdom of Peace. Wow. The Kingdom of Peace. Cryamina. Cree-dee-biddy-biddy. The Kingdom of Peace. Cryamina was being invaded by the evil devil Arachtakai's army, who replaces the wizard in the arcade version as the final boss, now being a large evil dragon, having you be charged with slaying and vanquishing him. The story told in the Famicom version has God choosing the devious undead Karnov to vanquish the evil dragon, but depending on how well you do throughout your playthrough, you'll be rewarded with 3 different endings. One good, one bad, and one normal. The bad ending has God release Karnov of his servitudial duties and resurrects him back into the mortal realm of man, where he would live the rest of his life working in the village Arachtakai sought so much to destroy and spreading the word of God. The good ending has the game take a very God of War approach, making Karnov, well, the God of War. And finally, the normal ending has Karnov be relinquished of servitude, just to be reinstated back into servitude, as he would become a guard of heaven, defending everyone and all of the heavens of demons if they ever were to come back. But they wouldn't, as all 3 endings have Arachtakai being completely and totally vanquished, never to be seen again. The NES version of Karnov's story is, to be completely honest, is just completely non-existent. Unlike the Famicom version, there's no dialogue, text, and little images depicting the evil actions of Arachtakai, and when you beat the evil dragon Ryu, as he's now called in the English version, you don't get any ending depending on your various score count at the end. You just get a big old splash screen that says congratulations and the end. So, aside from just the small little blip on the manual, you wouldn't even know that there was a story. You wouldn't even know why Karnov would do the thing he do. But the manual does give us a little bit to work on. Karnov, the fire-breathing Russian, is seeking the lost treasure of Babylon. As he runs, swims, jumps, climbs, and flies through 9 levels of gameplay, countless bizarre enemies of various sizes and strengths are out to prevent Karnov from finding the treasure. So the game is pretty much following the story that the arcade version gave us so much time ago.
Something's coming up the plumbing, poor Luigi's in a bind. Giant turtles out to get him, creepy crabs are right behind. Fireflies, cheaper shites, they're all coming out the pipes. Mario, where are you?
So, shockingly, Karnov didn't exactly have as much staying power as some other games released, like that weirdo turtle smashing plumber guy. I don't know, he's probably nothing now. And because of this, we were robbed of the sequel, which I'm sure would have been fucking bananas, but alas, we never did get Karnov 2. But if you were worried that our last memory of Karnov would be nothing more than a satisfying Scrooge gold dive into a fat stack of coin, well, don't worry, you'd be wrong. Like, super wrong. Because now, we enter the age of a shit ton of Karnov cameos. So, Data East probably saw the emergence of the video game mascot, of the blue hedgehog, the quirky Italian plumber, of, I don't know, I guess Capcom had the karate gi fighter Ryu as a mascot? I don't know. And so, they decided to dig their hands deep, deep into their treasure chest of characters in their catalog, and after eliminating such memorable characters as Blade and Stryker of the Bad Dudes, the Burger Time Chef, Shelnov, all that searching, it came down to the simplest conclusion that the only one worthy enough to represent the entirety of Data East, Karnov. And so, it was deemed that Karnov would become the unofficial mascot of Data East. And wow, did they shove his ass into a shit ton of games. So our journey first begins with a little known game called Gario Retsuden. An odd, overhead run-and-gun, romancing of the Three Kingdoms styled game, released in 1987. As you play as one of three brothers, Liu Bei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei, as you set off to save the princess from the evil clutches of the evil Lu Bu.
There is nobody in this land that can stop me!
The game is kind of an odd feeling, and doesn't exactly age well when compared to other run-and-gun overhead games, probably of the time, and especially now. But it does one thing, giving love to our big boy Karnov. Granted, I shouldn't say Karnov, as it's more of Karnovs. See, there's an enemy that you encounter. A herd of Karnovs. These standard, burly, fat, bold, mustachioed enemies that are very reminiscent of Karnov as they charge out at you like a pack of fucking animals. And they do so, gallop gallantly over to you with nothing more than bloodlust in their eyes. Probably his more well-known cameo would be his next one, in the beat-em-up Bad Dudes vs. Dragon Ninja, released in arcades in 1988. The game's story revolving around the US President Ronnie being kidnapped by ninjas, and these bad dudes from the mean streets of the town, named Blade and Stryker, have been tasked by a Secret Service agent to hunt them down and save the president, asking if the two street brawlers are bad enough to bring a hurtin' and save America. Chasing the ninjas through New York, as they fight their way through hordes of ninjas, they have no choice but to face off against what I only assume to be the Dragon Ninja's most powerful warriors. And one of them is none other than the fire-breathing muscle man himself, Karnov. Depicting him in the fight with his signature Karnov jingle in the background before he is ultimately defeated and humiliated by those bad boys.
I'm bad!
Our next stop takes us to 1990, where Karnov would show up once again in the interesting video game Trio the Punch Never Forget Me, which, ironically enough, would be forgotten many years later. This fucking insane ass game having you fight in a side-scrolling beat-em-up sort of varied mini-gamed fiasco. It is you're probably looking at the footage right now. It is a sight. Like, what this game is just on LSD and acid and just all the heaviest drugs, and you are just in a comatose state of just trippy shit. You fucking jumping from various different locations and fighting anything from ninjas to robots, and the game smacks you in the fucking face with the first boss being a bronze statue of Karnov being lifted and carried around by a bunch of mini Karnov. And I gotta say, this one is one hell of a fucking cameo, to say the least. But it doesn't end there. No, it's not the end there, as he can also be seen as a basic enemy in the game who do weirdo spider crawls like he's fucking Bray Wyatt, as well as flying overhead like a majestic angel spitting fireballs at you. It is a sight, man. It was a lot to take in. Definitely one of the more out there cameos. Or is it? No, it's just fucking bonkers, honestly. Our next stop would be in 1991, and would have our next Karnov cameo be hidden inside the actually super fun, and in my opinion, way better Bubble Bobble inspired arcade game, Tumble Pop.
Let's clean up.
Where you play one of two vacuum-sucking young boys as you ghost-bust monsters, ghouls, aliens, and a host of other oddball enemies throughout the world, traveling from Egypt to Paris to New York City and even Moscow. And one of the game's enemies is depicted as a fire-breathing strongman, most likely being a heavily inspired Karnov. No doubt in my mind. Ho, but it doesn't end there. No, because also released in 1991 was Big Karnak. And he is not big. The enemies that he faces are big, but he is a small boy. This side-scrolling platforming beat-em-up has you play as Karnak, who, after taking a lovely chariot ride through Egypt, has his friend, girlfriend, mistress, possibly Cleopatra, being taken away and kidnapped by some ancient flying monster, Goldar-looking ass bitch.
Cleopatra, coming at ya! Ow!
Leaving you to find and save her, as you hack and slash and jump around Egypt and tombs, fighting off mummies, skeletons, snakes, and all sorts of ancient baddies. One of them happening to be resembling a certain carnivorous Karnov. Actually, more resembling the bad dude sprite of Karnov, now looking much more in touch with the game's setting, as his skin is now dyed purple and his head now full of hair, which is weird, as he has his loinclothed Egyptian garb as he guards a key from you to get into this ancient tomb of enigmas. All you gotta do is beat the shit out of him in a fucking punch face contest. You knock him dead and you go in that tomb and he's probably dead. He's probably gonna get buzzards pecking at him in the... I feel for the guy. But don't worry, he's not dead. There's more. Next cameo involves the other fairly well-known Data East property, Joe and Mac, with the game Joe and Mac Returns, released in arcades in 1994. Being almost a copy and paste of their game Tumble Pop, now featuring a more prehistoric vibes. You play as either Joe or Mac and face off against prehistoric baddies in a bubble bobble type gameplay throwdown. Karnov can be found in a bonus stage event as well as one of the in-game cutscenes, rocking a prehistoric attire and bumbling around with the cave boys, perving on cave chicks and spitting hot fire. Also accompanying him with this cameo is Mizuguchi, who you'll come to know soon enough, trust me. Just hold on to your butts, we're almost there. Our last cameo stop for the time being has Karnov being seen in the game Dunk Dream. The 3-on-3 basketball dunkathon made by Neo Geo and Data East. Karnov in this game can be found amongst the crowd sporting a shirt with the letter K and that signature chub face. Look at that. Making mama proud. Oh. So after that exhaustive list of cameos, Karnov would finally get his name back on the map. No longer would he need to rely on some chump change Data East cameos. No, he'd reclaim his name to fame. He'd get his name back up in lights. He'd get his name uttered by the millions and millions of fans around the world. And he would make history. In fact, one could say he would make fighters history.
It's such a shame, but I wait for your next challenge.